All right, deep divers. Get ready to explore a book that's known for sparking revolutions. Karl Marx's Capital.
Okay.
We're diving deep into the ideas that have shaped economies and ignited debates for over a century.
Absolutely.
But here's the twist.
Okay.
What if, instead of a revolutionary's handbook, Capital is actually a blueprint for understanding the rules of the game?
Interesting.
Maybe even thriving within the system.
It's an interesting perspective, isn't it? Capital is often seen as this dense, intimidating text calling for the overthrow of capitalism. But if we approach it with an open mind, we might find that it actually offers a deep dive into how capitalism works.
Almost like a capitalist cheat sheet hidden in plain sight.
Well, let's see. For this deep dive, we're focusing on excerpts from Volume 1 of Capital. We're going to try to decode some of Marx's key concepts and see if we can unearth any practical insights along the way.
So how did Marx see capitalism? It's not just about buying and selling, is it?
Marx saw capitalism as a complex system with a lot of moving parts at its core. He believed it's built on this idea of extracting surplus value.
Surplus value. Okay, break that down for us.
Imagine a worker in a factory who makes, say, furniture. They're paid a wage for their time, right? But the value of the furniture they produce in a day might actually be much higher than what they're paid.
So the worker is creating more value than they're getting back in their paycheck?
Exactly. And that difference, the value they create beyond their wage, is what Marx called surplus value.
And that surplus value is where profit comes from.
That's how Marx saw it. He argued that this extraction of surplus value is fundamental to how capitalism functions.
I'm starting to see the gears turning here.
Good.
But then why don't all workers become millionaires if they're the ones creating all this value?
That's the million-dollar question. Marx believed that wages tend to get pushed down to the bare minimum needed for a worker to survive and keep working.
So just enough to keep the lights on and a roof over your head. And to add to that, Marx also talked about what he called the Industrial Reserve Army. Think of it like a large pool of unemployed people who are always available to work.
A constant source of competition.
Exactly.
Got it.
This competition for jobs puts downward pressure on wages. Making it harder for workers to negotiate for better pay.
Wow. I'm starting to see how this all connects.
Good.
Even if you work really hard and try to climb the ladder. There are these bigger forces at play that can affect how much you earn.
That's one of the insights Capital offers. It's not just about individual effort. It's about understanding the structure of the system itself. Now, another key concept Marx explored
is the labor theory of value.
Lay that one on us.
All right.
What's the labor theory of value all about?
Essentially, it argues that the value of a product is determined by the amount of labor that goes into making it. The more labor it takes, the more valuable it is.
But doesn't that contradict how we often perceive value in the real world? Like a designer handbag that costs a fortune? Is that really all about the labor that went into making it?
That's a great point. In our daily lives, things like brand names, scarcity, and even trends can drive up prices. But Marx argued that underneath all of that, the foundation of value is still the labor that went into producing the good.
So the fancy brand is just smoke and mirrors?
Not exactly. But Marx was trying to get at something more fundamental. He uses the example of power looms in Capital. When power looms replaced handloom weavers, the amount of labor needed to make fabric drastically decreased.
What happened to the handloom weavers then?
Their skills became less valuable in the market because it now took less labor to produce the same amount of fabric. It's a powerful illustration of how technological changes can shift the value of labor and even displace entire groups of workers.
That's like a domino effect. New technology. Less labor needed, and workers struggling to keep up.
Exactly. And Marx saw this constant evolution and potential disruption as a key characteristic of capitalism.
It's all about maximizing efficiency and getting more output with less labor. Which then ties back to that idea of surplus value we talked about earlier.
It's all interconnected, and that's what makes Capital such a fascinating read. Marx was trying to map out all these complex relationships within capitalism.
Speaking of interconnectedness, Let's talk about money and commodities.
Oh,
how do they fit into this capitalist puzzle, according to Marx?
Well, Marx saw money as a representation of value within the system.
Okay.
It's like a symbol that stands in for the actual labor that went into producing something.
So it's like a token that facilitates the exchange of goods.
Uh-huh.
But the real value lies in the work behind it.
Precisely.
Okay.
He uses the example of linen being traded for a Bible.
Okay.
Each represents a certain amount of labor.
Right.
Money acts as this common measure, allowing these different things to be exchanged based on their labor value.
Like a universal translator for the value of goods.
A great way to put it.
Yeah.
Marx emphasized that while money is essential for transactions,
right.
Understanding capitalism means looking beyond the surface and seeing the underlying labor relationships at play.
Okay. I'm starting to get a handle on this.
Good.
But Marx also delves into the history of capitalism, right?
He did.
Didn't he have some strong opinions about how it all began?
He did.
Yeah.
He called it primitive accumulation.
And it's essentially the historical process of how the conditions for capitalism were created.
So where did it all start?
Think about things like the enclosure of common lands in England.
Okay.
People who once had access to land for farming were suddenly pushed off, forced to sell their labor in order to survive.
That sounds a bit harsh.
It was a period of immense social and economic upheaval.
Okay.
This concentration of wealth and resources in the hands of a few created the foundation for the capitalist system we know today.
And Marx believed that this historical context is crucial.
He did.
For understanding how capitalism operates even today.
Absolutely.
Wow, this is really making me rethink everything I thought I knew about capitalism.
It's quite a read.
But we've covered a lot of ground already.
Right.
Where do we go from here?
Well, we've just scratched the surface of capital.
Okay.
In the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore how these concepts actually play out in the real world.
And see if they hold any practical advice for navigating this complex system we call capitalism.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
It should be interesting.
Welcome back, deep divers.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but my head is spinning a little after that first part. We've just scratched the surface of Marx's Capital.
Right.
Exploring concepts like surplus value, the labor theory of value, and even taking a trip back in time to those early days of primitive accumulation.
It's a lot to unpack, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But what's really intriguing is how these seemingly abstract theories can actually connect to our everyday experiences in the modern world.
Okay, so let's bring it down to earth.
Okay.
How do these concepts from Capital actually play out in the real world? Can they really offer any guidance on how to navigate this capitalist system?
Let's start with that idea of money as a representation of value.
Right.
Remember, Marx argued that it's not money itself that holds the real value, but the labor that goes into producing goods and services.
Right. It's like money is just a symbol, a stand-in for the real deal.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now think about how this plays out in the business world.
Okay.
A business owner's goal is usually to maximize profits. But what does that mean in Marx's terms?
Well, if profit comes from surplus value, then maximizing profit would mean extracting as much surplus value from your workers as possible, right?
You got it.
Okay.
And here's where understanding capital can be really illuminating by grasping the dynamics of surplus value extraction. A business owner could potentially make more informed decisions about things like wages, production processes, and even investments in technology.
So it's not just about being ruthless and squeezing every last drop of profit out of your employees.
Right.
It's about having a deeper understanding of the forces at work.
It's about seeing the bigger picture.
Okay.
Take automation, for example.
Okay.
The business owner might invest in new machinery to increase productivity.
Right. More efficiency, potentially lower costs. What's not to like?
But here's the catch.
Okay.
Increased productivity doesn't necessarily translate into higher wages for workers. In fact, it could lead to job displacement if fewer workers are needed to do the same amount of work.
That's where that industrial reserve army concept comes back to haunt us.
Exactly.
More workers competing for fewer jobs.
Exactly. Right. So for a business owner, understanding capital could mean being aware of the potential social consequences of their decisions.
Right.
It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of profit wages and the workforce.
So it's like a balancing act.
Yeah.
Finding ways to be profitable while also considering the impact on your workers and the broader community.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay.
Now let's flip the script.
Okay.
What if you're not a business owner but a worker trying to navigate the job market?
Right.
How does understanding capital help you?
That hits close to home for a lot of us.
Right.
It can feel like you're stuck in a system that's working against you.
Well, think back to Marx's point about wages tending to be pushed towards the minimum needed for survival.
Right.
Understanding this dynamic can empower workers to be more strategic.
But how can you fight against a system that seems designed to keep wages low?
It's not about brute force. It's about knowledge.
Okay.
Knowing your worth.
Right.
Understanding the skills that are in high demand and being able to negotiate effectively for better pay and conditions.
So it's about using capital as a guide to level up in the game of capitalism.
In a sense, yes.
Okay.
It's about seeing the patterns, understanding the rules, and using that knowledge to your advantage.
Right.
Now, here's something that might surprise you.
Okay.
Even people at the top of the capitalist food chain, like Wall Street financiers,
okay,
have been known to study capital.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Why would the people who seem to benefit the most from the system want to read Marx? Isn't that a bit like a fox studying a chicken coop owner's manual?
It might seem counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But think about it.
Okay.
If you're operating within a system, wouldn't you want to understand its inner workings as deeply as possible?
I guess that makes sense.
Right.
The more you know, the better you can play the game.
Exactly.
Okay.
For someone in finance, understanding Marx's analyses of money commodities and the flow of capital could potentially give them a competitive edge.
So capital is like a cheat sheet for both those who want to disrupt the system and those who want to play it to win.
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what makes it even more compelling is that Marx wasn't just some ivory tower theorist.
Right.
He was deeply engaged with the real world, studying economic trends and observing the lives of workers.
So he was grounding his theories in reality, not just abstract ideas.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why capital continues to resonate with people today. Even if they don't agree with all of his conclusions, it's a work that grapples with the real experiences of people within this complex and ever-evolving system.
It's definitely challenged a lot of my assumptions about capitalism, but it's also pretty dense and challenging to read, to be honest.
There's no denying that.
Yeah.
Hopefully this deep dive is giving you a clearer understanding of the core ideas and sparking some curiosity to explore further on your own.
Okay, so we've talked about surplus value, the labor theory of value, the role of money, and even the historical roots of capitalism. What are some of the key takeaways we should be chewing on as we move toward the final part of our deep dive?
One crucial concept to remember is that Marx believed capitalism has inherent contradictions.
Contradictions? What do you mean by that?
He argued that there are built-in tensions within the system that can lead to crises. Think about overproduction, for example. Companies producing more goods than people can afford to buy.
Right. Like when there's too much supply and not enough demand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this can lead to economic downturns, unemployment, and social unrest.
It's like the system is always teetering on the edge of instability.
That's how Marx saw it.
Okay.
And he believed that understanding these contradictions is crucial for understanding how capitalism evolves and potentially transforms over time.
This is getting pretty intense. So we've got this framework of Marx's ideas.
Right.
But what does it all really mean for us in the here and now? What would Marx say about the world today?
That's the ultimate question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll grapple with the implications of Marx's ideas for the modern world.
Right.
And consider what he might have to say about the state of capitalism today.
Okay. I can't wait.
Stay tuned.
All right, deep divers, we're back for the final stretch of our journey through Karl Marx's Capital.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride.
We've covered a lot of ground, from surplus value to the labor theory of value, and even those inherent contradictions that Marx believed could shake the foundations of capitalism.
We've seen how money acts as a symbol of labor.
Right.
How understanding these economic forces can be useful for both business owners and workers.
Yeah.
And we've even taken a glimpse into the historical events that shaped the system we live in today.
My brain is definitely full.
I bet.
But I'm also really curious to tie it all together.
Okay.
What's a big takeaway here?
Yeah.
What would Marx say about the world we live in today?
Well, let's start by revisiting that idea of capitalism's inherent contradictions.
Okay.
Those tensions that Marx believed could lead to crises.
You mean things like overproduction, where companies produce more than people can buy?
Exactly. Think about the economic ups and downs we see all the time. The widening gap between the rich and the poor.
Yeah.
And the anxieties around automation and jobs disappearing.
It definitely feels like there's a lot of instability and uncertainty out there.
And that's where Marx's analysis can be so insightful.
Okay.
He saw these crises not as isolated incidents, but as symptoms of a deeper issue within the system itself.
So he wouldn't be surprised by the state of the world today?
I doubt it.
Yeah.
He might even argue that these events are playing out in ways that support his theories.
Wow.
But here's the crucial point.
Okay.
Marx believed that understanding these dynamics wasn't about just sitting back and watching. It was about recognizing the potential for change.
You mean like a revolution?
Not necessarily.
Oh.
While Marx is often associated with revolutionary upheaval, his ideas have also inspired a wide range of social movements and reforms aimed at improving the lives of workers within the capitalist system.
So understanding capital can be a tool for both radical change and for working within the system to make it more just.
Precisely. It's about using this knowledge to empower yourself.
Right. To advocate for a more equitable and sustainable economic order.
So what's the final thought you want to leave our listeners with?
Here's something to ponder.
Okay.
Could it be that by understanding the very mechanics of capital, we can unlock the potential for individual and collective action?
Okay.
Can we use this knowledge to create a future where the benefits of economic progress are more widely shared?
That's a powerful question to consider.
It is.
It feels like the perfect way to wrap up our deep dive into the depths of capital.
It's been an incredible journey.
Absolutely. And remember, deep divers, this is just the beginning.
Keep learning.
Keep exploring. Keep questioning.
That's the key.
And keep diving deeper into the ideas that shape our world.
Absolutely.
Until next time.